Welcome to TRN Podcast, episode 145. Today we're looking closely at something pretty significant that unfolded earlier today. A really widespread power outage affecting Spain, Portugal, and even parts of France.
Quite a major event.
You've probably seen some headlines, but we want to unpack what actually happened, the immediate fallout, and what it means especially for travelers and, the whole region.
We've got various reports coming in painting a picture of, well, disruption and quite a bit of uncertainty on the ground.
Okay, so let's start with the timeline. It seems around midday today, that's Monday, April 28th, the power just went out across large areas of Spain and Portugal.
Yeah, and reports confirmed even parts of France were hit. This wasn't just a quick flicker either.
No, definitely not. It sounds like a massive failure. It brought transportation grinding to a halt and really impacted daily life for, well, millions of people.
It's quite something how interconnected things are. You see an issue in one area and boom, it spreads.
Exactly. So the impact on travel was immediate and pretty far-reaching, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Train services across the whole of Spain were suspended.
Yeah.
Stopped.
Wow, all of Spain.
And in big cities, Madrid, Lisbon, the subway systems were either partly or even fully evacuated.
Right. Metros evacuated and airports.
Airports saw significant disruption, too. Flights delayed, some canceled altogether. Chaos, I imagine.
It must have been even something as simple as, traffic flow got snarled up because traffic lights stopped working.
Yeah, leading to major congestion in cities.
Yeah.
It shows just how reliant we are on that constant power supply, doesn't it?
It really does. Modern life just stops.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And transportation is just one piece.
True. Beyond transport, the outage had other really serious consequences. News outlets were reporting that hospitals in Spain actually had to postpone planned surgeries.
That's incredibly serious. Postponing surgeries. That highlights the direct public health impact immediately.
Yeah, really worrying. And even sort of lighter things, relatively speaking, a major sporting event, the Madrid Open tennis tournament, got interrupted mid-match.
Even leisure activities disrupted.
Yay.
It shows how pervasive the reliance on electricity is.
And there were also concerns about, the stability of essential services, potential food spoilage for businesses relying on refrigeration.
Right, the knock-on effects just keep spreading. Supermarkets, restaurants, all facing potential losses.
So the big question then is, why? Initial reports suggest the cause of this massive blackout is still under investigation.
It seems there are a couple of initial lines of thought. The Spanish government is looking into the possibility of a cyber attack.
Okay, a cyber attack, that's obviously a very serious prospect.
It is. It implies potential malicious intent, which raises a whole different set of concerns compared to a technical fault. You'd have to consider the sophistication needed and what else could be targeted.
But on the other hand, the Portuguese electricity provider mentioned a potential issue with the broader European power grid itself.
Exactly. They're talking about the highly interconnected, synchronized system across Europe. A fault, maybe a major transmission line failure, or a big power plant tripping could destabilize the whole network.
So it could be technical failure rather than an attack?
It could. We need to be careful not to jump to conclusions before the technical investigations are done. Large-scale outages in complex grids, while not common, certainly do happen.
And the EU Commission is involved too.
Yes, they've stated they're monitoring the situation and helping with information exchange between the countries. Makes sense, given the cross-border nature.
Okay, so cause is still uncertain, but for people listening, especially those with travel plans to or within Spain and Portugal, this whole event throws up some important questions.
Definitely. Questions about your rights, what you can expect.
Let's try and break that down. We need to talk about this concept of force majeure acts of God, essentially. How does that apply here?
Right. Legally, force majeure refers to unforeseeable, unavoidable events outside a company's control. And generally, large-scale power outages like this fall into that category.
So what does that mean for travelers if your train or flight is canceled because of the blackout?
It usually means the standard compensation rules for delays or cancellations might not apply, because the airline or railway company isn't directly at fault for the power outage itself.
Okay, so maybe no extra cash compensation, but you still have rights, don't you?
Absolutely. You definitely still have rights. For rail passengers facing cancellations or significant delays due to force majeure, you're typically entitled to a refund of your ticket price.
A refund, okay. What about assistance?
Yes, rail companies might also have a duty of care providing refreshments, maybe even a hotel room if you're stranded overnight due to the delay.
And for flights, it's similar, I assume. Power outages are usually considered extraordinary circumstances.
That's correct. So again, you likely won't get the standard EU compensation payment for the delay or cancellation itself.
But the airline still has to help you out.
Yes, the duty of care still applies. They should provide you with meals and refreshments appropriate to the waiting time, potentially hotel accommodation, and transport between the airport and the hotel if needed.
Crucially, keep your receipts right if you have to arrange things yourself.
Definitely. Keep all receipts for reasonable expenses, food, accommodation, alternative transport. You might be able to claim those costs back later.
What about hotels you'd already booked but couldn't reach because of the travel disruption?
That depends more on your specific booking conditions. Some rates are non-refundable. It's best to contact the hotel directly and explain the situation.
Package holiday travelers might be slightly better protected here, maybe.
Often, yes. If you're on a package tour, your tour operator has a greater responsibility to sort things out or offer alternatives. For independent bookings, it's more down to negotiation and the hotel's policy.
And timing is key here. The Spanish grid operators estimated, what, 6 to 10 hours for full restoration?
That was the initial estimate for getting the power back on everywhere, yes.
But the knock-on effects on travel could last longer.
Exactly. It takes time to get trains running normally again, reposition aircraft, clear backlogs, disruptions could linger.
So the advice is, be flexible, stay informed.
Absolutely. Keep checking directly with your airline or railway operator for the very latest updates. Don't rely on old information.
Okay, so wrapping this up then. This widespread power outage in Spain and Portugal was clearly a major event. Huge immediate consequences, especially for travel and essential services like hospitals.
Yeah, what started as just, the lights going out quickly spiraled into disruption across multiple sectors. It really underscores how dependent we are on stable infrastructure.
And the investigation into the cause, whether it was a technical glitch in the European grid or something more sinister like that cyber attack theory that's going to be critical.
Critical for understanding how to prevent this kind of thing happening again, or at least mitigating the impact.
So for anyone listening who might be traveling or has connections in the affected areas, the key takeaway really is to stay informed.
Right. Transport companies, local authorities, they're working to restore services, but expect some continued disruption. Check directly with your providers and know your rights regarding cancellations and delays.
This whole event also makes you think about the resilience of our big interconnected systems, doesn't it?
It really does. A power cut in one region can ripple across borders, hitting daily life, critical infrastructure, the lot.
It definitely underlines the importance of, well, robust cybersecurity measures on the one hand.
And strong international cooperation in managing these complex energy networks on the other.
And maybe one final thought to leave people with. While this blackout caused, immediate chaos and a lot of inconvenience, it also offered a pretty stark glimpse into how quickly modern life can be upended by things we don't expect.
That's a good point. It perhaps prompts a moment to think about our own preparedness for these kinds of situations, both when we travel and just in our daily lives.
Yeah, what backup plans do we actually have in place for when the unexpected inevitably happens? Something to consider.